My name is Jackson Healy, but most people call me Jack. I can't believe I've been standing in my bedroom doorway for nearly 10 minutes, watching my wife Dakota having lovemaking with a stranger. I've had enough time to record it on my iPhone and take some clear pictures. They still haven't noticed me, and from what I could see, I had time to take more notes. But honestly, it was getting a bit repetitive. As I watched, I realized the guy seemed familiar. Maybe because he was similar to me. He wasn't younger, taller, or in better shape. Brown hair, blue eyes, 10 fingers and 10 toes. Just like me, you get the point. So what was the appeal? It struck me that the attraction was simply that he wasn't me. It's a cliché, but I came home a day early from a business trip and saw a strange car in the driveway leading to this moment. Another thing that bothered me: why did my wife have her lover park in the middle of our driveway? We live in a cul-de-sac with 12 other houses, and we're a friendly community. Wasn't she worried someone would find out? Finding your wife in bed with another man is shocking. But what hurt most was seeing her exhibit behavior she never showed in our 18 years of marriage. Our bed life was vanilla, but satisfying, or so I thought. She never hinted she wanted anything different until now. Clearly she liked it. In all the years I've known her, she never spoke such words in lust or any other situation. I didn't even know she knew those words. I also didn't get any words of encouragement from Dakota. She'd been passionately growling into her lover's ear for the past 10 minutes. Strangely, I didn't feel a blinding rage. I didn't want to grab a weapon or use one of my daughter's aluminum softball bats to shot them. I was angry, sad, hurt, and confused as any husband would be. But I think the lack of rage came from accepting that my marriage was over. Why she did it might be interesting to know someday, but right now it didn't matter. She did it, and our marriage ended. Case closed. As I wondered what to do next, I noticed an unopened box of Trojans on Dakota's nightstand. Why have contraceptives if you're not going to use them? I muttered. After we had our 2 daughters, Sheridan, 13, and Helena, 11, Dakota made me use contraceptives until I got a vasectomy. She said 2 kids were enough, but I hoped for a son. I've always regretted not being more assertive about that. Then I noticed something missing. Dakota used to have 4 photographs on her nightstand, which I called her shrine. Now, 2 were gone. The biggest one, a family portrait from when the girls were little, and our wedding photo. The wedding photo was the smallest, which I never thought much of, but maybe I should reconsider. She left our daughter's photos for her lover to see. They were just baby pictures she framed years ago, probably from kindergarten. The question of where the photographs went didn't seem important now. Maybe it was shock or an out-of-body experience, but it became the most pressing issue for me. After some thought, I realized they should be in Dakota's second drawer, a habit of hers with the expensive Drexel Heritage chest of drawers. Quietly, I opened the drawer and there they were. How did I know? Dakota had a habit of cleaning before the scheduled cleaners arrived, putting away anything that was lying around. I once asked if she thought the cleaners would steal her hairbrush, and she gave me a look like I was crazy. I thought it was just her quirk, until I mentioned it at a neighbor's party, expecting some laughs. Instead, her friends looked at me like I was dumb. Of course you clean before the cleaners arrive. Another thought struck me. Maybe she hid the photos to show some respect. Given the circumstances, this was hard to believe. Maybe her boyfriend insisted on it. Not knowing why, I carefully removed the photos from the drawer and decided it was time to leave. With the photos in hand, I slipped out of the house. It was only 3 a.m., so I decided to stop by work. After being gone for several days, there was undoubtedly a stack of meaningless papers on my desk. I arrived, slipped into my office, and locked the door behind me, shutting out everything and everyone else. First, I put the 2 photos on my desk as a reminder of something. Gathering my courage, I called my old friend Ennis H. Dixon, a family lawyer I knew from college. Back then, he was a rich kid living in our dorm, because his parents wanted him to understand how lucky he was. He insisted on being called NH, which I found pretentious. Dixon had clearly moved up in the world. I had to go through 3 assistants to reach him because he refused to give me his cell number, reserving it for clients to track billable hours. I thought all pretentious people had at least 2 phones. Jackson, good to hear from you. How can I help you? Ennis said, deliberately avoiding calling him Jack, just to annoy him. I need your cell phone number. Ennis, Jackson replied, frustration evident in his voice. Oh crap, what happened? Ennis asked, concern creeping into his tone. Jackson told him everything. As far as I know, They're still doing it in my bed right now, he concluded, his voice shaking with anger. Oh damn, this is really bad. What do you want to do? Ennis asked, sounding both shocked and serious. Divorce, simple and clear. Except I want her and her lover to feel pain, Jackson declared, his voice hardening with resolve. Well, buddy, you're lucky for 2 reasons. First, I'm the best family law attorney in the state. And second, you don't live in a no-fault state. I'm sure you want primary custody, but it's not easy. Not impossible, but not easy. Also, even if we prove infidelity, she will likely receive alimony because she's a housewife and you earn a lot. So even in a fault state, you could get a raw deal. Let me set my investigators on Dakota and her lover. It will be expensive, but if you want custody, we need more than just the fact that she had lovemaking in your bed. We need to know everything about her lover, and their affair, Ennis explained, laying out the complexities of the situation. Do it. I don't care about the price, Jackson responded without hesitation. You should never say that to a lawyer, Jackson, Ennis warned, sensing his friend's frustration. He paused and became serious. Sorry, Jackson, I didn't mean to take this lightly. I don't want an apology, Ennis. I want you to be ruthless, Jackson insisted, his voice cold and determined. I can be ruthless. This may take several weeks, and I need you to act normally around your wife. Can you do that? Ennis asked, making sure Jackson understood the gravity of the situation. Yes, Jackson agreed. He gave Ennis the necessary information and emailed him the evidence he had. Ennis sent him a prepayment form, which Jackson signed and returned through DocuSign while still on the phone. He hung up feeling more depressed but determined. A knock on the door interrupted his self-pity. Come in, Jackson called. His administrative assistant, Franny Grable, entered hesitantly. Is everything okay, boss? She asked timidly. Yes, Franny, everything's fine. I finished my work early and decided to come back, Jackson replied, trying to sound normal. I know, Jack, but when you brushed past me without acknowledging me, I got worried. Plus, you've been here for over an hour, Franny said, concern evident in her voice. Sorry, Franny, I just have a lot on my mind, Jackson admitted. Franny had been his assistant for over 15 years. He hired her at Dakota's request. She was an old friend of Dakota's who had fallen on hard times after her husband died in a work accident. He was a non-combatant military man, so his life insurance was only $12,000. If he had died in combat, Franny would have received $100,000. With 2 children, $12,000 was not enough. It was hard for her, but Jackson never regretted hiring her. She turned out to be an excellent assistant. Okay, Jack, I'll go home now, Franny said, though she seemed unconvinced. As she was about to leave, she noticed the photographs on his desk and paused. What are these new ones? She asked. Yes, I brought them here to remind myself why I'm doing this and what's important to me, Jackson replied, trying to maintain his composure. Oh, that's so nice, boss. Have a nice evening, Franny said, smiling. Bye, Franny, Jackson said, wanting to tell her but remembering Ennis's advice about acting normal. How could he act normal after seeing his wife having lovemaking with someone else in their bed just hours ago? Going to a hotel wasn't an option since too many people had already seen him. So he decided to go home. During the 20-minute drive, he kept trying to figure out how to act normal, but he had no idea. When he pulled into the garage, Dakota heard him and met him at the door. Her eyes showed fear, anxiety, and a bit of anger, but she quickly masked it with a smile. Oh my God, Jack, you're home. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow, Dakota said, feigning surprise. I thought I'd surprise you. I arrived around 3 and decided to finish the day at the office, Jackson replied, trying to sound casual. Well, we're glad you're home, honey, Dakota said, kissing his cheek. Dinner will be ready in a few minutes, but there's not much since I wasn't expecting you. It's okay. I'm not very hungry. I'll change out of this suit. It feels like I've been wearing it for weeks, Jackson said, heading upstairs. The girls caught up with him, hugging and laughing. We're so glad you're home. We love you, Daddy, they chorused. I love you guys too. I missed you so much, Jackson said, their greeting giving him courage and direction. He knew he could handle the deception for their sake. Freed from the girls, he continued to what used to be his bedroom. Everything looked normal. The bed linens smelled fresh, and the room was clean but unremarkable. Their bedroom was always untouched, which now made sense. Dakota probably noticed him staring at her nightstand. The 2 missing photos were the only thing out of place. As he tried to control his emotions, her voice startled him. Sorry, honey, I accidentally broke the frames while cleaning. I took them to Aaron Brothers to have them fixed, Dakota explained, her tone carefully neutral. I just nodded without looking at her and continued changing my clothes. She left at some point. In case you were wondering, she smelled fresh, like a daisy, just as she always did when I came home. My acting wasn't convincing because Dakota was nervous all evening. I mostly avoided her by spending time with the girls and helping them with their homework. Dinner, usually lively and noisy, was eerily quiet. The girls suspected something was wrong but didn't press it. Dakota's face was an unreadable mask. If I was going to pretend everything was normal as Ennis wanted, I needed to do better. After the girls went to bed, I poured myself a glass of Maker's Mark and lounged in my worn office chair, my man cape, the only room in the house I could call my own, reflecting my tastes. Dakota called it an embarrassment. I knew I had to face her before bed and was wondering how when she came in, looking worried. Normally Dakota avoided my room. She walked toward the sofa opposite my chair. "Come here, sit on my lap," I said lightly, patting my knees. Her face brightened and she quickly sat on my lap. I kissed her cheek. Sorry I was so off at dinner. My trip didn't go as planned and I have a lot to sort out. I just needed a break. She perked up. "It's okay, Jack. I knew something was bothering you. Let me help you forget about all your work problems tonight." But she didn't make me forget my problems. We made love. And it was the same gentle closeness as always. We snuggled a lot and both seemed satisfied. I thought that was what she wanted. It was completely different from what I'd seen earlier. Dakota hugged me tightly and said, "You know I love you, Jack. I really do. You made my life complete." I almost threw up. How could she lie so easily? Her deceit rolled off her tongue like she was reciting a recipe. The answer hit me. She'd been doing this for a long time. This realization sent a chill down my spine and a heaviness settled on my chest. A few moments later she fell asleep. Less than 8 hours earlier she'd been with her lover in this bed. And now she falls asleep instantly. What kind of person can do this? Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all. I managed to pull myself together and leave for work early. I needed to get out before Dakota got up to get the girls ready for school. I left a note on the dry erase board in the kitchen. I had to leave early for work to start solving the problems I told you about. Somehow I managed to act normal for the next 2 weeks. As days passed waiting for news from Ennis, I began to feel better. Maybe this is how liars become good liars. Enough time to practice. Dakota, on the other hand, became more anxious. She looked like she had a lot on her mind but never said anything to me. She was always affectionate but seemed to go out of her way to be sensitive. She probably said she loved me 25 times a day, and even complimented how I dressed. She should have been alarmed by the missing photos, but she stuck to the don't ask, don't tell principle. I hoped this would continue for a while. Franny was acting strangely. She knew me so well that she could sense any change in my mood and behavior. She kept insisting I talk about it, which irritated me. I told her I was under pressure at work and would be fine. She always knew when I was lying. What also bothered me was her constant staring at the photographs on my desk. I've long accepted that I'm not good at reading women's emotions. I couldn't tell if Franny was sad, worried, or angry, but her expression was always strange after looking at the photos. I think women are better at this than men. I seriously began to question my sanity. I felt numb and detached, as if a 50-pound weight was on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I pretended to live, desperate for this nightmare to end. Then Ennis called, asking me to come to his office urgently. "Yes, we've got them cornered, but brace yourself," Jackson Ennis said. "She dated Mr. Dubois a long time ago, even before we were married. According to my information, he bragged about having lovemaking with Dakota the morning of your wedding. He claimed she told him she was giving you sloppy seconds on your wedding night," Ennis revealed, his voice heavy with disgust. I should have gone berserk, but all I could think to ask was, "How did your investigators find out?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's better if you don't know, Jackson. A lot of the good stuff can't be used in court anyway. If I weren't such a good lawyer, we might get in trouble," he said, attempting to lighten the mood with a laugh. "Damn it, kids. I wonder if they are mine," I muttered, the realization hitting me hard. From his look, I knew there was more bad news. "That's not all, is it?" I asked, dreading his response. "Holy crap, Ennis. Maybe she's married to him too. One of those bigamists with 2 families," I speculated, the absurdity of the situation dawning on me. "Oh, Dubois is married, but not to your wife. He has his own family, married for 10 years with 3 kids under 8. "It'll be easy to expose him if you're willing," Ennis explained. "I don't know, Ennis. I don't want to ruin his wife and kids' lives, I said, feeling a pang of guilt. Jackson, you'd be doing him a favor. If you watch the video of Dakota and him, you'll see he's tearing you and his wife apart. Dakota doesn't join in much, but she doesn't stop him either. He only married his wife because Dakota wouldn't leave you for him. Ennis stated, his voice firm. Ennis, with everything you've learned, why does she want to stay married to me? I asked, confusion and hurt in my voice. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're working on it. Just give us time, he reassured me. I can't control myself anymore. When can we serve her? I demanded, my patience wearing thin. Soon, Jackson, but I'm working on something worth the wait, Ennis promised. Life went on. Dakota was very affectionate, making the girls behave well. We made love more often, but nothing changed in how we did it. She always seemed happy. I didn't think she could fake satisfaction for so long, which made her betrayal even more disturbing. I was driving myself crazy trying to understand her actions. How could she say one thing and still cheat? I decided to fake it myself until I could end it. What was Ennis waiting for anyway? The following Monday, he called me to his office. Ennis, usually a jokester, looked like he might be physically ill. He nodded slowly. Look, Jack, I don't really know how to tell you this, but it might change your perspective on custody, Ennis began, his voice grave. They're not mine, are they? I asked, the dread growing. We need a DNA test to be sure, but no, I don't think they are. It gets worse, he said, his expression somber. How much worse, Ennis? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. They know, Jack, Ennis replied. What do you mean? I interrupted sharply. The girls know Dubois is their father. We have video of Dubois, Dakota, and the girls at a park picnic last Sunday. They called him Dad. He and your wife held hands, kissed, and played with Sheridan and Helena. Ennis explained, his voice softening with pity. Everything went dark. When I came to, I remembered Dakota telling me she was taking the girls to the park while I was cleaning the lawn last Sunday. Paralegal Ennis was pressing a cold towel to my forehead and calling my name. Jackson, what happened to you? You're unconscious. Let me call the paramedics, Ennis said, his voice panicked. No, I'll be fine. I shook my head, trying to clear it. Sorry about that, Ennis. It feels like my whole life has been a scam, I said, my voice hollow. Buddy, you just said the magic word, Ennis replied, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. What word? I asked, confused. Fraud. If I were you, I'd want revenge. Warning his wife and divorcing Dakota wouldn't be enough. Did you know you can annul a marriage for fraud? He explained, a plan forming. We've been married for 18 years, Ennis. How can I get an annulment now? I asked, disbelief coloring my tone. The duration doesn't matter. You just need to apply within 4 years of discovering the fraud. It won't be easy, but it's worth a try. With an annulment, you won't have to pay alimony. You probably won't have to pay child support, but that depends on the judge, he clarified. Child support? Seriously? I asked, incredulous. Unless we prove Dakota and Dubois deceived you into raising his kids, you might be stuck. But that's not the main reason to pursue annulment. A divorce won't get publicity, but an annulment after 18 years will. It'll shame them publicly and help our case for child support reimbursement. Plus, I'll get my 40%, and I'll even give you a 5% discount. You'll get the ruthlessness you asked for, Ennis said, a hint of a smile on his face. Your generosity is touching, Ennis, I said, tapping my heart sarcastically. That's not all, Jack. We found more interesting facts, he said, leaning in. I listened to him and we made plans. By then, nothing shocked me anymore. When I returned to the office, Franny ambushed me. Jack, what happened? You look terrible. I'll take you to the doctor right now, Franny insisted, her concern palpable. No, Franny, I said, trying to reassure her. But Jack, she pressed, not convinced. Miss Grable, I said, shocking her with my tone. She reluctantly left, looking incredibly depressed. I didn't care because I'd already been enlightened in Ennis's office. I expected this and I wasn't disappointed. Not even 30 minutes after I released Franny, Dakota appeared in the doorway. She was braless, in 4-inch heels and a plunging neckline. Damn, she was pretty. What a loss. Franny called me. She said something happened, Dakota said. I snorted sarcastically, interrupting her. I tried to keep my composure as she glanced at the photographs, as if she knew exactly where to look. She sat down in front of my desk, clearly not wearing underwear either. Did she really think this would help? You were there. You saw us, she said, looking sad but speaking normally. Her words cut me deeply. It doesn't mean anything, Jack, it's just a fling. It doesn't compare to what we have together, she added. Tell me something, Dakota. How long? I asked. Not the first time, honey, but only a couple of months. She almost sounded sincere. 2 months. How many times? I pressed. Only 3 or 4, baby. Never in our house. I screwed up. It's over. Let's forget about it. She lied effortlessly without guilt. No sweating, no fidgeting, no looking away. I realized she didn't intend to give up her boyfriend. Thank you for being honest, Dakota. Most cheaters would lie and say it was the first time, but you let me see who you really are. And I appreciate it, I said, trying to keep a friendly expression. She barely flinched at my last statement, but seemed to sense something. Don't do this, Jack. It won't end well for you. You'll get hurt in unimaginable ways. Just leave it and let's move on. I love you. You love me. And we both love the girls. Please just let it go, she pleaded. It almost sounds like you're threatening me, Dakota, I noted. Oh, honey, I'm sorry if it came off that way. I meant you control how much my failures hurt us. But most of all, Jack, it will hurt Helena and Sheridan. They did nothing wrong. I did. Let's talk more tonight. I know we can work this out, she suggested. Okay, we'll talk tonight. But now I need to get back to work, I replied. She kissed me passionately. Maybe she mistook me for her boyfriend. We are so good together, baby. Don't let my weakness destroy our family, she said as she turned and walked out smoothly, as if she had nothing to do with it. I was so shocked I sat there for 5 minutes before pressing the intercom. Miss Grable, please come in, I said. Franny entered, her eyes red and swollen. How long have you known? You told her about the photographs, didn't you? I demanded. Silence. She wiped her eyes with a handkerchief, sitting and looking down. I'm waiting for an answer, I said firmly. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. So, I'm Miss Grable now, Jack. After all these years? She asked, her voice trembling. Yes, and for now I'm Mr. Healy, I replied coldly. Are you going to fire me, Joe? I mean, Mr. Healy, I really need this job, she sobbed. Not if you give me a truthful answer and agree to testify to my lawyer. What's your choice? I asked, my patience wearing thin. I've known for a long time, she confessed, her voice barely audible. Disgusted, I picked up the office phone. Hi, Georgina. I need to talk to William about a problem, I said. William, Franny asked, panic rising in her voice. Bill Cody, the VP of HR, I clarified. Franny interrupted me, desperation in her eyes. Please don't do this. I'm so sorry, Mr. Healy. I knew about this before you hired me, she cried. What did you know, Miss Grable? I asked, my voice hardening. She hesitated again. I slammed my palm on the table. The loud bang startled her. I'm losing patience. You know about her? About her activities? I demanded. I'm tired of these games, Miss Grable. Tell me the truth now, I insisted. I saw her struggling. I won't accept anything but the complete truth, Franny, I said, softening my tone. Please, Franny, you owe me this for helping you. I need to understand why you betrayed me. It took her a moment to compose herself. Then she told me everything. Byron Dubois was her maternal cousin. She knew about his relationship with Dakota, which started in high school. She knew Helena and Sheridan weren't my children, and that Dubois fathering them was deliberate. Each revelation was another dagger in my heart, not just from Dakota's betrayal, but from Franny's. Her betrayal hurt even more. I trusted you completely, Franny, I said, emotional. Why was Dakota so desperate for me to hire you? She wanted me to inform her if you got close to discovering her other life. Franny said, lowering her head, embarrassed. Is she embarrassed now? She also wanted me to let her know if you ever cheated on her, she whispered. For God's sake, do you have any idea why she wanted to marry me? She was just here professing her love and begging to stay married, I asked, exasperated. You won't believe it, but she really loves you, Franny replied. I chuckled sardonically. Hard to believe now. It's true, Mr. Healy. I asked her years ago. She said she loves you but needs Dubois too, Franny explained. She ruined my life because she wanted your cousin? I was shocked and Franny nodded. Why children, Franny? I asked, pointing for her to continue. Are you sure you want to know? It's worse than you can imagine, she said hesitantly. People tell me this all the time. How much worse can it get, Franny? I asked. Her tears stopped. She looked at me with pity but didn't lie or hide anything. Dakota asked Byron to get her pregnant so her children would have alpha genes. She paused, gauging my reaction. So I'm a beta? I asked, feeling the absurdity of the situation. Yes, she wanted alpha bloodlines, but wanted a beta like you to raise them kindly and compassionately. She believed your character was better suited for raising her children. Byron agreed. She needed both an alpha and a beta to feel complete, Franny explained. I laughed uncontrollably. It was too ridiculous. I'll make an appointment for you with Ennis and expect the whole truth, I said. She nodded and left. She stopped and turned to me. What should I tell Dakota, Mr. Healy? She asked. You can call me Jack. Franny, I don't care what you tell her. It doesn't matter anymore. Good night, I said. Wait, not that I care, but do you think I'm a beta? I asked, almost as an afterthought. She started crying again. Yes, but it's not bad. That's all, Mr. Healy. She sobbed, then turned and hurried out, closing the door behind her. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going home. I called my friend Butch, hoping she was still in the office. Luckily she was, so I went to see her. Let me tell you about Butch. Her real name is Cheyenne Gillette, and she's the director of it. She's a retired U.S. Navy commander and was the first woman to qualify for the Bud S. Naval School until a knee injury ended her chances. She's tough as nails and doesn't get close to anyone at work. She's a proud, committed lesbian, though she prefers to be called queer. One day she told me, if you're going to call me a lesbian, make sure you capitalize the L, but I prefer queer. Just smile when you say it. I didn't fully understand, but we were friends, and I was pretty much her only friend at work. Our friendship began when I saw a Neanderthal maltreating her outside the break room. She had enough and physically pushed him away. I believe in live and let live, but this guy crossed the line. When she saw me, she paled, realizing she might be in trouble. I calmly said, You know, Miss Gillette, he shouldn't have pushed you like that. Are you okay? She smiled, whispered something to the guy, and as she passed me, she said, Call me Butch. All my friends do 3 days later. The guy was fired and never seen again. From then on, we were friends. I thought I messed up when I accidentally called her Butch in a management meeting. You could have heard a pin drop and I thought my career was over. But she didn't flinch. She replied, Okay, Sundance and everything was fine. If you were Butch's friend, you were a friend for life. Damn, Sundance, you look like crap. Sundance had become my standard greeting after that incident. What's happening? There are rumors around the office about a lot of drama on your end. That's putting it mildly, Butch. I sank into a chair, emotionally drained. I need to rest somewhere for a while. Can I crash with you and Becky? Of course, Jack. I'll have to clear it with her, but I don't see a problem. We've got plenty of space. Care to tell me what's going on? I laid out the situation, not missing much. When I mentioned Franny's betrayal and my plan to fire her, Butch raised her hand to stop me. You can't fire her, Jack. You'll expose us to a wrongful termination lawsuit, or worse, if she claims you're retaliating for personal issues unrelated to work. It's risky, Butch said. Butch, she set me up. And I can't do anything? I asked, frustration evident in my voice. Relax, Jack. I have a better idea. Make an agreement with Bill to transfer her. I need a new administrator. Butch gave me a wicked smile. And raise her salary. She won't be able to claim maltreatment. You said she needs money. I couldn't help but laugh. This was the first good news I'd had, possibly marking the start of my recovery. Butch had been here about 5 years and had gone through 13 administrative assistants. The first few tried to file complaints and lawsuits, but none were successful because Butch kept impeccable records and treated everyone equally tough. Among the staff, she was known as the Angel of Ending, because working for her meant you were a dead man walking. That evening at their house, I had to recount the whole story again. Becky listened sympathetically while Butch got angrier. I was glad she was on my side. Calming down after finishing the story, I told them about my conversation with Franny after Dakota left. Oh, that quiet girl will love working for me, Jack, Butch said with a smirk. I decided to keep it short, asking about Franny's comment on being a beta. Is that a masculine trait, I asked? Butch rolled her eyes. Of course you're a beta, Jack, want to know what that means. A beta male is an amazing lover because he cares about his partner's needs in bed. He's faithful, a great father, and can talk to his wife about more than just lovemaking. He cares deeply about his family, does his laundry, cleans up after himself, is reliable, and isn't a control freak. He's not threatened by his wife's independence. Franny was complimenting you, not insulting you, she explained. But what about Dakota's comment about the alpha gene? I asked, still confused. Becky cut in. You'll have to ask Dakota about that. For your peace of mind, you need to understand her motives. What? I asked, bewildered. Relax, Jack. Let me explain. Do you think Butch is alpha or beta? Becky asked. Definitely an alpha, I responded confidently. You're wrong. She's alpha at work, but beta at home. Why do you think I've been with her all these years? At home, she's just like a beta, Becky explained. I was surprised. I looked at Butch. She smiled and nodded. That's right, Jack. I'm the alpha in our partnership. Butch lets me control our relationship. She's an alpha at work, which lets her be a beta at home. We all move between alpha and beta depending on the situation. Unless you're a sociopath, Becky said. Butch's eyes were wet with admiration for Becky. I remembered a similar look from Dakota. Maybe Dakota was right. She needed both of us to be whole. At that moment, Butch sat on Becky's lap, and they started kissing passionately. I began to leave. Don't go, Jack, they said simultaneously, laughing. It's true, Jack. Becky runs the show here, Butch added, smiling. How do you feel about all this? I asked, trying to understand. After listening to you, I believe Dakota loves and needs me. But she lied to get what she wanted, turning my life into a lie. I'll never forgive her for that, I said, my voice steady with resolve. So what's next? What about your children? They love you, and you love them. You can't just turn them off because of what their mother did, Becky pointed out. I don't know, Butch. I just know Dakota and I are getting a divorce. Nothing will change my mind. I know it's petty, but I'm going to hurt Dakota and her lover. What do you think of Franny's role in this mess? I asked. Becky was silent, but Butch spoke. In some ways, Franny's betrayal is worse. Dakota's actions were driven by her ideas about love and need. Franny's betrayal was calculating and unforgivable. Leave it to me, Butch said with finality. I nodded, knowing they understood. I'm going to bed. Thanks for letting me stay, I said, feeling a slight sense of relief. My phone buzzed all night with texts and calls from Dakota. I didn't read or respond to any of the more than 20 messages. The next day at the office, I arranged Franny's transfer to Butch. She was set to start on Monday. May God have mercy on her soul. In the meantime, she was sent home with her salary. I continued staying with Butch and Becky for the rest of the week. They were incredibly supportive, and I was grateful. I ignored all of Dakota's attempts to contact me and instructed security to keep her away from the office and parking lot. A few days later, Montana, Dakota's older sister, showed up at my office. I had forgotten to mention her to security. Montana never liked me, and the feeling was mutual. She always had a smug grin, like she knew something I didn't. Now, without an administrative assistant, she walked into my office unannounced with that same grin. Maybe today I could wipe it off her face. What do you need, Montana? I asked, trying to mask my annoyance. Can I at least come in and sit down, Jack? She asked, her voice carrying a hint of arrogance. Sure, but don't get too comfortable. You won't be here long, I said, pointing to a chair. Look, Jack, I know we haven't been the best of friends. But please listen to me for a few minutes and then I'll leave, Montana said, taking a seat. You know she loves you, Jack. And she'll do anything to fix her mistake. Do you believe she loves you? She continued. I couldn't suppress my laughter. You know, Montana, I believe she loves me, but it doesn't matter. I feel nothing but contempt and disgust for her. Anything else? I'm really busy, I replied. You're an idiot, Jack. You always have been. I don't know what she saw in you, she snapped. Well, Montana, we agree on something. I don't know what she saw in me either, I said with as much disdain as I could muster. I didn't come to argue, Jack. Since you won't talk to her, she wrote you this letter, she said, handing me a thick white envelope with "From my dear Jack" in Dakota's handwriting. I sighed, stood up enthusiastically, and walked to the shredder. I placed the unopened letter in it, grinning at Montana. You're a stupid, childish boy, Jack. You're causing pain to yourself and your family, she snapped, stomping toward the door. Hey, Montana, before you go, do you want to tell me about Brockton Bozeman? I asked. She froze, then turned slowly to me. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her arrogance vanishing, her voice desperate. Surely your husband, Troy, would be interested in... I began. No, Jack, please, she interrupted, falling apart. This has nothing to do with Troy. I was just trying to help Dakota. She really loves you, tears rolled down her cheeks. Is there really nothing I can do, she asked, her voice breaking. You have a week, Montana. If you don't tell Troy everything, or try to hide the truth, he'll get all the evidence I have, but since I'm feeling generous, you have a week to convince Troy to accept your lifestyle. If he doesn't personally tell me he doesn't care, he gets everything, I said. laying out the ultimatum. Jack, please. I know you don't believe me, but I really love Troy. He means everything to me, she pleaded. Yes, I've heard this before, I replied coldly. In 5 minutes she went from arrogant to pitiful. I even felt a bit guilty. As strange as it may seem, Montana, I believe you. That's why I'm giving you a week. If I didn't think you loved him, he'd get a big package at work tomorrow, I said. Jack, no please. Are your 2 boys really his children? She asked desperately. Montana, you don't understand. Things aren't what you think. Let me explain, she said. I had my answer. You have a week. Goodbye, Montana. Close the door when you leave, I said, starting to rummage through papers, unable to look at her. I didn't know Troy well, but he deserved to know. The Ennis people found out that Montana, a couple of years older than Dakota, had a similar lifestyle. Maybe Dakota got the idea from her. Or maybe from their mother. It didn't matter. The door closed. I picked up the phone. Yes, Ennis, burn them, I said. Music to my ears, buddy. But Jackson, you have tough decisions ahead, Ennis replied. None of this has been easy, Ennis. What's next? I asked, feeling the weight of the situation. An annulment is a win-win. With our evidence and Franny's statement, it's straightforward. File your petition with the affidavit, then serve it on her. I'll make sure the media knows, but you'll give up all visitation and custody rights to your children, no alimony or child support. It will be like they were never in your life. He paused. Unless Dubois and she let you visit, which is unlikely after we burn their bridges. You can't leave me halfway, Jackson. Either see this through or file for divorce and leave much poorer. What will you choose, partner? He asked. Damn, things are only getting worse. Annis, I need to think. I'll contact you in a couple of days, I said, needing time to process everything. Okay, Jackson, but I'm ready to go now. Let me know, Annis said, his voice calm and reassuring. I loved my girls. At first I was angry when they called Dubois daddy. Then I realized they just knew they had 2 dads who loved them. It wasn't their fault. Who knows what Dakota told them? I didn't know what to do. I talked it over with Butch and Becky that evening, but they had no answers. I was leaning toward divorce for the girls' sake. Dakota made my decision easier. She talked to Montana. After work, I went for a drink at the Horse's Head Bar and Grill. It was usually quiet and I needed to think, but my thoughts were interrupted. Hello, Jack. Dakota, we need to talk, Jack. But first, I want to show you something. Please come outside with me, she said, heading toward the door without waiting for an answer. What the hell? I put a 20 in my glass, waved to the bartender, and followed. Outside in the bright late afternoon sun, she pointed at a Chevrolet SUV. Do you see them, Jack? She asked. I looked around the parking lot and saw Dubois with Sheridan and Helena inside. He had a sour expression but didn't look my way. My girls looked at me desperately, crying. Dubois started the engine and drove away. God, what has Dakota done? I muttered. If you and I don't come to an understanding right now, Jack, this will be the last time you see your daughters, Dakota said, her voice full of venom. If you divorce me, I'll get custody. Oh, you'll get visitation rights, but I'll do everything to prevent it. I'll blame you for destroying our family, and by the time I'm done, they'll never want to see you again. Despite everything, I was stunned by her audacity, especially involving Sheridan and Helena. What do you want, Dakota? I asked. I want us to be together again, Jack. I want my family back. You just have to accept Byron in my life, she replied. I know they are not my daughters, Dakota, I said, trying to remain calm. Of course they are, Jack. I loved 2 men and never knew for sure who the biological father was, but I knew you were the best man to raise them, she countered. You're still lying to me, Dakota. I can always tell when you do, I said, frustration boiling over. That's not true, Jack. What makes you think you can tell? She asked, her voice rising. Because your lips always move when you lie, I said. It took her a moment to realize this. Jack, get away from me, you stupid vindictive cow. See you in court, I snapped, turning on my heel and walking away. I headed straight to my car. As I was leaving, I called Ennis. Go ahead, annul the marriage, Ennis. I'm with you until the end. And burn that piece of crap too. I hung up before he could answer. It was clear Dakota would use the girls against me, no matter what I chose. I had no choice but to end this. Maybe in a few years I could talk sense into Sheridan and Helena. I had no idea what might happen after Dakota was sued. I moved out of Butch's place and checked into a hotel. I took care of all administrative and financial matters. Ennis was going to serve her with a temporary restraining order, which would last a few weeks until a hearing could make it permanent for 3 years. Ennis hoped she would violate the order by coming to my work and cursing me, or better yet, punching me. He even suggested it would be cool if she injured me, making the order a win-win. Sometimes I doubted whose side he was on. All that was left was to hand her the documents and wait for the hearing. 2 days later, Dakota did exactly as Ennis had hoped. She rushed past security, burst into my office, and started throwing things while swearing. She slapped me several times before the guards subdued her and called the police. Ennis was disappointed she didn't hurt me more but figured we could still make the order permanent. A divorce hearing was scheduled in 60 days. Ennis made sure all the media knew when, where, and what would happen. Dakota's lawyer tried to close the hearing to the public, but the judge, facing re-election, denied the request. Ennis was right. An annulment was a win-win situation. He dragged out the hearing with surprising drama, securing the annulment. He got a talk show, and the gossip columns got increased ratings. 6 days after talking with Montana, her husband Troy visited me. "I'm just not as strong as you, Jack. I love her and want to give her a chance. Our kids are grown and leaving for college, but I still need them in my life. I'm too old to start over." He was emotional. "Couldn't you keep the evidence to yourself?" "I'm afraid if I saw it, I couldn't handle it." His voice was filled with confusion. "Maybe I'll need it later." "You know the kids aren't yours, right? She told you, didn't she?" He nodded in agreement. "Troy, is she still planning on sleeping with her second husband?" He shook his head but looked down. "My boys, Jack. I am their father, regardless of who the seed fluid donor was. I can't give them up. And she says she'll give up this lifestyle if I stay with her. It's weird, but I think she really loves me. That's different. I understand, Troy. Maybe you're stronger than both of us. I just can't leave it." He nodded solemnly, shook my hand, and left. I never saw him or Montana again. They moved out of state after their kids graduated high school. The same day I met Troy, Mrs. Byron Dubois received a thick package from FedEx. Things moved quickly for Mr. Dubois. Maybe I made a mistake, because when the court ordered Dubois to pay back my child support a few months later, he was broke. Ennis almost had a heart attack when he found out he'd only get 40% of $1. $250 a month, Ennis said, enraged. He was so angry he retracted his 5% discount promise. He calmed down when I asked how much he makes from his talk show. About 6 months after the annulment, I reached out to Dakota and asked if we could meet to talk. Everyone told me I needed closure. I had questions. We met at the Horse's Head. "Are you serious? After what you did to Byron and me? You'll never see my girls. If you even whisper to them, I'll ban you so fast your head will spin," Dakota said, her voice sharp and filled with anger. "You're a bit delusional about what I did to you," I responded, taking a deep breath. A shouting match wasn't an option. What if I lift the restraining order and agree to fund the girls' college education? "I know you and Byron are making it. As you said, they aren't to blame for anything. I want them to have the chance to go to a good college." I saw she was softening. "I don't know, Jack," she said, her tone hesitant. "Listen, Dakota, I'll even babysit if you want to go away for the weekend. I know they're at an age where they don't need it, but I just want to stay in their lives to show them I still love them and maybe explain why I acted the way I did. I promise I won't speak ill of you. I would just say that you wanted a different lifestyle and we both thought it was better to go our separate ways," I said, trying to bridge the gap. "Let me think about it," she replied, her tone dropping to almost normal. "Dakota, can I ask you a few questions? It's probably not a big deal, but it bothers me and I'd like answers. Please tell me the truth." "It won't undo anything," I continued, hoping for some clarity. "Whatever, Jack," she said, starting to get impatient. Her attitude infuriated me, but I didn't need much from her. "Why? You actually ruined my life? And for what?" She let out an indignant sigh. "You did this to yourself, Jack," she said, sensing I was ready to explode. Raising both hands, she continued. I know my actions separated us, but you used scorched earth on me. I had no choice. You tore out my soul and fed it to the wild dogs. What did you expect from me?" "I of course expected that you'd be hurt, but I thought we'd talk about it like adults and figure it out." "You know Troy and Montana are still together, right? People talk, Jack. They solved their problems," I said, trying to reason with her. To be fair, Dakota, Montana told him she would leave her lover. Not that I believed her to make their marriage normal. "You told me I had to accept Byron's presence in your life," I added, noting the unfairness. It was obvious this hurt her. She changed tactics. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Jack. You have to admit that, Until you saw Byron in me, you thought you had a wonderful life. I helped you find this life. I loved you deeply. My heart broke when you left me," she said, trying to appeal to my sense of nostalgia. "Well, that raises a big question." "Why did you need both of us?" I asked, searching for the truth. "I don't know, Jack," she said, taking a deep, slow breath. "My sister did it, and some of my friends did too. You may not know it, but this lifestyle is becoming more acceptable." "Oh, please," I snorted mockingly. "Then why not discuss this with me before we got married? Oh, and did you actually have love-making with Dubois on our wedding day? First of all, who told you this? It's a complete lie." "I would never do that," she said, looking incredulous. "Secondly, if I told you, would you have agreed to the wedding? No, you wouldn't. And I loved you very much. But sometimes I just wanted love-making. Don't get me wrong. I loved what you did in bed, but you didn't have it in you to take me without worrying about me getting hurt." I understood she was sincere, if not delusional. It was clear I wouldn't get a satisfactory answer, so I moved on. What could she say that would make sense? Why did you have to have love-making with him in my bed? I pressed further. "I know you won't believe me, but this was the first and only time we did this in our house, let alone a bed," she said, raising my eyebrows, but somehow I believed her. "Well then why?" I asked, needing closure. She sighed, this time with sadness. Byron and his stupid alpha tendencies. He just needed to push. And in a moment of weakness I gave in. "Stupid, stupid, stupid," she said, close to tears. She was close to tears. "By the way, about alpha and beta." "Oh God, Jack, maybe you'll leave it alone. You were a wonderful husband, father, and lover. Then why have children? And don't tell me it wasn't intentional." "I know better," I said, pressing for answers. She at least looked guilty before answering. "Jack, you're basically an anonymous middle manager in a mid-sized company. For heaven's sake, you drive a minivan. Your idea of fun is sitting at home in your terrible man cave watching sports on TV. Byron's idea of fun is chartering a plane to the game or flying to Vegas for the weekend. Byron drives Corvettes and owns, or at least used to own, a successful business. This lifestyle is intoxicating but not beneficial in the long run," she explained, trying to justify her choices. "Yes, but you're with him, not me. I'm afraid it won't last long." "Is it true?" I asked, doubting her happiness. "Yeah, living with that arrogant idiot full-time is very different than having him around part-time. Besides, he's a terrible father," she admitted, showing cracks in her decision. "Just as I suspected. I don't feel sorry for you, Dakota. What a lousy situation. You made your own bed," I said, feeling vindicated. "Listen, Jack, I know I messed up big time with that little escapade at the bar with the girls. It was stupid of me, I know. But I was desperate and decided I had nothing to lose. God, how I wish I could undo this part if not everything else," she confessed, her voice filled with regret. She fell silent for a moment. As for me, I didn't feel any better about this conversation, so to hell with the ending. I started to get up and leave. "Jack, wait," she grabbed my hand. "I still love you and I always will. I want you to know that if you come back to me, everything will work out. I promise that I will never see Byron again and will spend the rest of my life making it up to you," she pleaded, her voice filled with hope and desperation. I pulled my hand away, stood up, and looked down at her. "Sorry, Dakota, it's too late for that. Thank you for meeting with me. Think about what I said about the girls. Goodbye, Dakota." "Jack, wait, please don't leave. I need you in my life." I didn't look back. I never received a response from Dakota regarding my proposal for the girls. Hell, I didn't know if she was still with Dubois or living on the streets. I didn't care. But the ignorance about Helena and Sheridan continued to gnaw at me, sometimes driving me into a frenzy. They were innocent pawns in this story. Did I do the right thing? I was sitting at my favorite neighborhood dive bar, Emilio's. I was already sipping my second Jack and soda when Emilio put another one in front of me and shook his head in exasperation. Almost 2 years had passed since the annulment, and I was still feeling sorry for myself. If I didn't tip so well, he would have kicked me out a long time ago. Every evening when I came, he greeted me the same way. "Amazing, here comes Mr. Sunshine. Try not to suck the life out of my place again today, okay, Jack?" Apparently he felt I wasn't exactly the life of the party. Drinks paid for by the lady at the end of the bar. He jerked his head to the left. "Are you going to go cry on her shoulder and make a fool of yourself? She'll run away like everyone else and it'll cost me money, you idiot." He walked away muttering to himself. I thought Emilio had replaced Inez as my best friend. I looked back and saw Franny approaching. That was a surprise. I stood frozen looking at her. I'd only seen Franny in the company building a couple of times. I tried not to notice her, but one day she cornered me near the break room. "I'm not leaving, Jack. This cow can fire me if she wants, but I'm not giving her a reason. I won't give you that pleasure." And she left. I immediately went to Butch's office, beside myself with rage. Why is this cow still here? Calm down, Sundance. I treat her the same as any other administrative assistant I've had. She's the best I've seen. She accepts everything I do to her. If she fails, she fails. But Franny will stay as long as she delivers. And there she stood before me, still an administrative employee of Butch. It was a record. Her resilience finally liquidated my hatred for her. I simply saw her as an invisible part of a past life. "Hello, Jack, how are you?" When I didn't answer, she continued, "Do you think we could talk?" I paused for a long time. "Maybe it's time." "Yes, Franny, I think we can."